The title for these notes is slope-intercept form, which we started talking about last week. Okay, so slope-intercept form. So the notes is y equals mx plus b. And like I said, we started talking about this last week. We took a few notes on it, so you could even add to this. The big things that you need to know is that the b value, that is your y-intercept, which is your starting value. So if you remember when we looked at the scenarios of the graphs and things, we were always looking to see where was our y-intercept or where did our graph start. And this week we're going to look at like where is that, like what is the y-intercept from the equation. So you'll be given the equation and asked to graph it. And then the coordinates of that point were 0, comma, whatever the value. So if our y-intercept was 5, the coordinates would be 0, comma 5. So in this case, it would be 0, comma b, or whatever that number is. The other piece is m, which is our slope or our rate of change. And then some of the things that we've already talked about is that's the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. And if the things are getting closer together, you could draw a line to make sure that you can separate what goes with what. It's also rise over run, if you've heard that over the years. Or as I've written, like triangle y over triangle x, which means delta. So the triangle is delta, that means change. So take a minute, make sure you have this copied. This is the majority of the notes. Then I'm gonna flip over and we're gonna go through like 3 examples together. And then that's what you'll be practicing today is like, how do you graph from slope-intercept form? Okay, so this worksheet is posted in Empower. When you guys come back, like if you need it, I'll give it to you. But like I said, just draw rough sketches. The big piece that you need to copy is the equations, and then draw a rough sketch of the graph and the things, like I'm gonna write some stuff down below. So just make sure you have those as examples to follow along with. Your -2 is the y-intercept because there's no x connected to it. So it's by itself, so that's your starting point. So that's where I get the y-intercept is -2 and the point is 0, -2. And then I can, the first thing I would do is graph the y-intercept at that point. And then my slope is 4, but I can change it into a fraction because 4 divided by 1 is still 4. And because the top number is positive, it tells me I'm going to go up because the top always tells you up or down. So, and then the bottom number is also positive, so I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to go up 4 and to the right 1. And then up 4 to the right 1. And then I can draw my line. All right, so number 2, we're going to go y equals mx plus b, so it's in the same format. So now our y-intercept, which is our b value, is -1. So you always have to take the sign in front with it, and it doesn't have the x with it, which is the point 0, comma -1. That's the first piece I'm going to graph, and it's the y-intercept, so it's on the y-axis. And then my slope, which is m, is 1 over 4. And if it's already a fraction, you don't have to change anything. So you don't have to divide by 1 or anything because the top number is already going to tell you up or down. And because it's a positive number, I know I've got to go up 1. And the bottom number always tells you right or left. And again, if it's positive, I go to the right. So from my starting point, I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 4. and that would give me my next point. And I could just draw in my line with those 2 points, but there's one other thing I want to show you. Sometimes if you go up, you may go off the graph, or if you go down, you may have to go off the graph. So you need to know how to change your slope to go different directions. So, or I could change my slope. So instead of going up to the right, I need to do everything completely backwards. So my +1 would change to a -1. And then my +4 is also going to change to a -4. So you change the signs of both. If it was a negative, you would change it to a positive. So now it's going to tell me to go down, but now I'm going left. And I'm going to start at the same point, so on the -1, and now instead I'm going to go down 1 and to the left 4. And you should notice that it's going to be on the same line. So all of these are linear equations, so they need to form a straight line. If they don't, that should tell you that something's wrong and you need to go back and check your slopes. For number 3, this one's a little bit different. If you look at that, at y equals -5/4x, think about, and maybe even in the chat, tell me, do you think that's your slope or do you think that's your y-intercept? In this problem, if we talk about it, this, your -5/4x, because it's next to the x, that's actually your slope. So, and then the negative in front, you only use that one time. So there's only one negative. So you either put it with the top number or the bottom number. I typically put it on the top number to start. And then if I want to change it, I can. So then the y-intercept, though, remember it's y equals mx plus b, so I can do plus. And what can, like, you want to think about, like, what can you add to anything and not change it? So if you had like 5 plus what would equal 5, you can always add 0 to anything and it's not going to change the value. So in this case, your y-intercept is actually 0, which would be the point 0, 0 as your starting point. So I would graph that at the origin or the middle. And then -5 is going to tell me to go down. So the top is always up or down. The bottom number is always left or right. So again, it's positive, so I'm going to go to the right. So start there, go down 5, to the right 4. And you could draw your line, or just for good practice, we're going to switch it. So now instead of negative, the top number being negative, I can change that to a positive, and then the bottom number is positive, so I change that to a negative. So instead of going down to the right, I would need to go up to the left. So up 5 to the left 4. And those lie in a straight line. Well, let me show you this. A lot of times, this something that's pretty common is people will remember to go up 5, but then they forget to change the other value, and they'll get something like this. But right away, you should see that that's not going to work, because if you connect those, that's not a straight line. So that should give you like a hint that something's wrong, and to double check your slopes. Now, eventually you'll learn equations like that, but everything that we're doing right now is linear equations, so they should be a straight line. Let's go through the last one, because then you'll have 4 good examples. Okay, so my y-intercept, which is my b value. Hopefully you guys, you recognize that should be -5, which is the point 0, -5. And you graph that first. And then your slope, which is your m, is -4, but it needs to be a fraction, so I can convert that to -4 divided by 1. So that would tell me to go down 4 and to the right 1. But the problem is if I go down, it's going to go off my graph. and I would be guessing like that it's going to be down here somewhere, but I don't want to do that. So that's why you need to know that you can change this slope. So I can change this, instead of -4, it would be +4. And then the bottom number, instead of +1, it would be a -1. So instead of going down to the right, I'm going to go up to the left, and I'm only going to use this slope because the other one doesn't work. Or it'll go off, I mean, it works, but it goes off the graph. So I'm going to go up 4, left 1. And I could put another point. My line's a little crooked. I want to go to Empower and show you where to go. You're going to go to Unit 3, and then you're actually going to do this one, Unit 3P5. So she already finished it. I already had her this week. So if you click on that one, Unit 3P5, the first step in the action steps is these 4 problems that we just went over. So there is the paper there. So if you guys have a printer or something. In step 2, will take you to iExcel. Remember, when you log in, do sign in with Clever, and then log in with Google. Once you're logged in, you could go to the activity, but you need to go to action step 3 anyway. So it's Algebra 1 S7, but I've put the link there. So once you're logged in, then if you click on that, it'll take you to the right thing, and your name is in the upper right-hand corner that you can see your score is going to be tracked. And then you're just going to practice what we did. So you may want to write out like what's your slope, what's your y-intercept. So like in this example, I know my y-intercept's -3, so I put my point there. And then it's -1/5, so I could go down 1 to the right 5 and put my next point. You can either hit enter or just submit. If you put a wrong point, so like let's say I put a point like that and I want to get rid of it, just click on it again. You could click on both of them and it'll take them away.